Senator. Thank you.
Taxi! Sergeant Park Hotel.
Good morning, Senator Dunn.
Morning, Willoughby. Hold it. Why wasn't I let in on this?
May I help you?
Senator Munson.
Oh, just a moment, Senator.
Good morning, Bobby. How are you this morning?
You know how I am this morning, Mr. President.
I guess I'm in for it, aren't I?
It was one hell of a thing to do without talking to me about it.
Bobby, it's been over 2 weeks since Shepard died. We couldn't go on forever without a Secretary of State. I had to get it done.
What was the matter with the list of men we agreed on?
None of them. Not one of them can really fill the bill. Robert Leffingwell can. You know how valuable he's been to me.
Sure, he's great. But the man's got more enemies in Congress than anybody in government. He's never played ball with us, not even the most ordinary political courtesy kind of ball.
Well, maybe that's the reason I want him. He doesn't waste his time on trifles.
Mr. President, a United States Senator is not a trifle.
That's a joke, Bobby.
Fine, but Leffingwell's no joke.
And I'm the one who has to try and stuff him down the Senate's throat.
Now, look, I knew we were running a risk, but I want him. He can give us some creative statesmanship, and God knows we need it. Oh, come on now. What's our toughest problem? You want me to talk to Warren Strickland?
No point in you talking to the minority leader. Our troubles are coming right in the middle of our own party. And you know who. Sebe Cooley.
We can work out a deal with old Sebe.
He says we can work out a deal with old Sebe.
Who's with you?
Stanley Danton.
Stan's always right there on the job, isn't he? He's the best whip we ever had in the Senate. You tell him I said so.
Says you're the best whip we've ever had.
Tell him the best whip we've ever had says that Sebe Cooley will trade for one thing. Leffingwell's head.
What'd he say, Bob?
That Sebe won't trade on this, and he's right.
We've licked Cooley before. We can do it again.
Well, we better get at it. Suppose you start with Tom August.
When did Tom become a Cooley man?
He isn't, but he isn't a Leffingwell man either. Since he is chairman of Foreign Relations, we'll have to sweeten him up.
I'll call him in right away. Good luck, Bobby.
Oh, boy.
You want off this one?
I'm with you, Bob.
There's no doubt he's made a wild pitch. But I'd like to back him up all I can right now.
Sure, I know.
Bob, Stan.
Good morning, Senator.
Come on in.
About 5'8", blonde, little cleft in the chin, black dress, mink stole. Sorry, didn't see anybody answer to that description.
Why don't you get married, Leif? The United States Senator should stabilize with a good, solid marriage.
If I stabilized, I couldn't get elected. It's the unmarried mothers that put me in office. Anyway, why don't you stabilize yourself?
There's a difference between widowers and bachelors. Widowers have more dignity.
How do you feel about this Lollapalooza?
I think the president's nuts to name him, but I'll vote for him.
What about your friend, Brig Anderson? Think he might jump the whale? Leffingwell scuttled his power bill.
Brig won't be influenced by that. Not on this.
Well, I'm trying to count a few noses. Suppose you give Brig a ring just to make sure.
Okay, if you like.
Hello, Warren. Good morning. Bob Munson.
Beating the bushes early, aren't you, Bob?
But that I have a lot of bushes.
It's your garden, friend, not ours.
Warren, how many votes against Leffingwell on your side of the aisle?
Somewhere between 17 and 20.
That's giving him the benefit of the doubt.
Even with the president's right to name his own cabinet?
Try that line on the members of your own party. Say, Sebe Cooley.
Hello, Brig. How's the boy?
Right in the middle of breakfast. What's on your mind, Leif?
Oh, just wondered what you think about the president's appointment. Crazy, huh?
Think so?
Oh, it's gonna be a rough one.
I wouldn't be surprised.
I thought you might be upset about it.
Why would I be upset?
Oh, you know the trouble he gave you on your power bill.
Well, that's right. He did, didn't he?
Maybe it's okay.
Is that what Bob Munson wants to know?
What, you got television on your phone?
Just a second, Leif. You going, baby?
Yeah.
You still love me?
Yeah.
How much?
That one.
Time for a bus trip.
Have a nice time at school today, Annie. Leif?
Yeah.
Look, I'm not grinding an axe for Leffingwell, but I'm not going to commit myself right now either. I'd like to wait and hear what he has to say at the committee hearing. Apart from that, I'm just going to sit back and watch Sebe Cooley light up the sky.
Had your fire and brimstone this morning, Steve?
Yes, sir, Mr. Majority Leader. Laced with hot bourbon and branch oil. Expect you can see the flames coming out of my ears.
Can we have a little talk?
To meet about Mr. Robert A. Leffingwell would, in my opinion, be a fruitless conversation.
The president of the party and I would take it as a favor if you lay off.
I honor the president, I love my party, and I admire you, Mr. Majority Leader, except where it crosses with my convictions. I believe Mr. Robert A. Leffingwell will lead us straight to perdition.
Come on, Steve. We know what's eating you. Leffingwell made a liar out of you in a hearing 5 years ago.
It's a long time to carry a grudge, Steve.
Maybe for a young fellow like you. My table of time would happen just like yesterday. Stay gentlemen.
Scares you, doesn't it? All that 40 years in the Senate.
Good morning, Steve. I was just going to call your office for an appointment.
On the run, Fred.
Oh, I know. We've all got to hop for this one. But we'll put Leffingwell over. Well, he is it, Bob. He's really it. He's a great man, a great talent. I'm throwing my organization behind this.
You got an organization?
Are you kidding? 8 chapters in 8 cities. My peace organization.
Who are you making peace with? The Kickapoo Indians?
You find the idea of peace amusing?
I think it's just that Stan's on the Indian Affairs Subcommittee, isn't it, Stan?
I'll be with you in a minute.
Fred, what do those guys do besides strew roses in your path?
Just my brain trust. You can't hold down a senator's job these days by kissing babies and shaking hands, you know. Bob, the hearing will go to a subcommittee, won't it?
Well, I haven't any word from Tom August yet, so I don't know his plan.
Well, if it does, I say if it does, I don't want to push. Whoever's made subcommittee chairman should be pro-Leffingwell, shouldn't he?
Possibly.
Well, I've done my share of the hack work. I ought to be in line for a spot like this.
Look, Fred, right now I'm just trying to get the situation in hand.
I know, but I wanted to get my bid in early. I've got to fly to New York for the afternoon and meet my Eastern group.
Ah, yeah.
Suppose I call you later on.
Yeah, do that. Call me.
Van Ackerman is looking for a horse to ride.
You won't get it from me.
He won't care where he gets it. He doesn't belong here, Bob. Sooner or later, you'll have to cut him off the vine.
You fall off. Good morning, Bess.
Good morning, Senator. Your telephone calls.
Okay. First, see if you can get me a Leffingwell.
Yes, sir.
Sir, 219 telegrams so far. Most of them favorable to Leffingwell.
Good.
Good morning, Senator.
Morning, Fiora.
Leffingwell residence.
Senator Munson calling Mr. Leffingwell.
Senator Munson? Oh, wait a minute. Dad, it's Senator Munson on the phone.
What?
The phone. Senator Munson.
Tell him I've gone out.
Why?
Because, Johnny, he'll want me to do some things that might obligate me.
I mean, why do you want me to lie? If you're in, you're in. If you're out, you're out.
Son, this is a Washington, D.C. kind of lie. That's when the other person knows you're lying and also knows you know he knows. Follow?
Nope.
Senator Munson will understand.
Okay, if you say so. He's not here. He went out.
Do you know where I might reach him?
No, ma'am. He didn't leave a forwarding address.
Oh, I see. Well, thank you.
I can't reach Mr. Leffingwell, Senator.
All right, Bess. I'll take these calls down the line.
Yes, sir.
Wouldn't you think we'd know he's dodging us?
He just might become the best Secretary of State we'll ever have.
Want me to make you one of these?
Thanks just the same.
It's good. Don't you want to be Secretary of State?
Think I should want to?
Big job.
That's a fact.
I think you ought to want it.
Why?
Well, you know, all that trouble and war and stuff like that. Maybe you could do something about it.
I'd like to try.
That's the way I'd figure it. It's worth a try.
As you get to the top of the stairway, look at the painting on the wall there on the right. This painting portrays one of the worst conflicts of the Mexican War. And in this painting, it's interesting to note that Lieutenant Lee and Lieutenant Grant fought side by side. They were classmates at West Point, as you know. The skylight came from Philadelphia. It was placed there in 1859. Round medallions in the center of the skylight are hand-painted. They were done by Gibson and Company and placed there in 1859.
Good morning, Max.
Miss Harrison, Lady Marblin.
Good morning, Maxwell. Max, this is Madame Barre. Her husband is the new French ambassador.
Welcome to the Senate, madam.
Thank you.
Good morning, Lady Marjorie.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you, Bob? There's nothing we can do.
Good morning, Orrin.
Oh, Bob.
Everything all right?
Bob,
Hi, boy.
going around the Leffingwell hearing might be set for tomorrow. That's rushing things, isn't it?
Well, in view of the fact that we need a Secretary of State, I wouldn't say it's rushing.
Senator Strickland, wouldn't you say that's rather sudden?
Senator Munson's party is going to be strongly divided on Leffingwell. Perhaps the senator would like to push it through before that division ruptures.
I wonder if the minority leader is qualified to speak for the majority party.
On the right of that aisle is the minority, and on the left is the majority.
All of those are left? Does America have so many leftists?
Oh, no, darling. It's purely geographical. I mean, they're all Republicans or Democrats. No communists or anything of that sort. They do have liberal types, but they don't necessarily sit on the left. And the conservatives don't necessarily sit on the right.
Boy, this is Bill. Very nice.
That man, the one on the dais, Harley Hudson. He's the vice president of the United States.
He's very attractive.
Yes, dear, Harley's very sweet. He's from one of those odd little states, isn't he, Dolly, dear?
He was governor of Delaware, if that's what you mean. He's the president of the Senate, Celestine.
But you said he's the vice president.
It's all very confusing. We'd have called him the Lord High Chamberlain or something sensible.
It's very sensible. His job as vice president of the country is to preside over the Senate, which makes him its president.
Then he's also a senator.
No, the vice president presides over the Senate, but he's not a senator. He can't even vote.
He can vote in case of a tie.
The Senate will come to order. The chaplain will now offer prayer.
Our Father, in these days of stress and strain, when men are called upon to bear great burdens, give this Senate the strength and charity to ascertain of each who would serve his nation, his true nature and purpose, lest through inadvertence and oversight there slip into seats of power those who would misguide and mislead this great people.
Even the parson is getting into the
Give this
Leffingwell
body of
Act.
servants your blessings, O Lord, and help them to serve in your ways. Amen.
Mr. President,
Recognize the senior senator from Michigan.
I ask unanimous consent that the journal of yesterday's proceedings be approved.
Without objection, so ordered.
Mr. President, I suggest the absence of a quorum.
Absence of a quorum suggested. Clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Abbott.
Finish your story. Bob's just alerting this one. Somebody's bound to pop on Leffingwell. Called for the post early.
Better wake up, Senator McGafferty. Senator, quorum call.
Opposed, sir. Diametrically opposed.
No, Senator, it's a quorum call.
Mr. Ardell. Mr. Ashley.
Here, Powell.
Mr. August.
Take over for a few minutes.
Mr. Bellingham. Mr. Bender of California.
Present.
Mr.
Bob?
Bender of North Dakota.
Where's Seed?
Oh, he'll make an entrance pretty soon.
Mr. Bender.
Anything I can do to help about Leffingwell?
It's a thing. We're just going to mark time.
If there's anybody you want me to talk to, I'll be glad to.
Excuse me, Harley.
Tom August came in from the White House in the cloakroom.
Sit in for me.
Bronson.
What's going on, Stan?
President. Oh, hi, Harley. Looks like a bumpy day.
I was asking Bob if I could do anything to help. Maybe there's something.
Filling up, huh?
Here.
Funny how they can always smell gunpowder.
Yeah. Did I tell you I murdered my wife last night? Buried her under a kumquat bush?
Mr. Cook.
Oh, well. Easy come, easy go.
Mr. Cooley.
What? What did you say?
I said
Mr.
I might as well
Courtney.
get up there and let the tourists rubberneck at me.
Mr. Cunningham.
I'm sorry, Harley.
Forget it, forget it.
Mr. Curry.
Excuse me. Sure. Hello, Bob.
Morning, Tom.
The president wants a closed hearing.
That's impossible. Cooley would find a way to open it up if he had to use a can opener.
That's what I told him. We'll have to name a subcommittee and let it go at that.
Who do you have in mind to chair it?
I thought Powell Hanson.
Well, it'll look like you're rigging it for Leffingwell. You might put him on the committee, but not as chairman.
It's got to be somebody who can handle Cooley. What would you think of Fred Van Ackerman?
Got you too, eh?
Got me out of bed this morning.
Well?
I don't know. The man has no tact. Of course, he could cope with Seeb.
So could Brig Anderson over there.
I thought of Brig, but he's Fred Van Ackerman's junior. Fred would split a gut.
Let him split. Brig knows how to be a senator.
All right. Let's tag him and get organized.
Brig, may we interrupt for a moment?
Sure.
Brig, how would you feel about handling the subcommittee on Leffingwell?
I'd feel fine.
Bob, Orrin Knox is up on Leffingwell, and Seeb is warming up.
Here we go, gentlemen.
The president must have known the reaction would be adverse. For the name of Leffingwell is synonymous with arrogance and an egg-headed determination to ignore
Since
the
when have
wishes
you
of
been
his
letting
governing
somebody
body.
else do your dirty work?
I have
You
only
mean
to
Orrin
cite
Knox,
his
Bob?
conduct in the various
Find
offices
Orrin
held
doing
by
somebody
the
else's dirty
the
work,
office
and that'll be a
of
pretty
roving
do.
ambassador to
Indeed as well.
the Office of Federal Power Commission, the Office
This
of
was a complete
Defense
surprise.
Mobilization, which he now administrates. And in each of these, he has, under the protection of the president, gone his own way without consultation with the appropriate committee of the Senate.
Mr. President, will the senator yield?
I will yield when I complete the text of my statement.
Mr. President, I only wish to ask the senator how long he intends to speak. Was the senator planning to speak for about 15 minutes?
Nice try, Robert. Mr. President, the esteemed majority leader is trying to trap me into a time limit. Well, since he has trotted out this wheezy device, he must expect the usual wheezy answer. I certainly expect to speak longer than 15 minutes. Indeed, I may speak 15 hours.
Attaboy, Orrin.
I might also say, Mr. President, that I do not need any coaching from the sidelines from the esteemed senator from South Carolina. I would like to make it plain that my opinions are my own, and they do not reflect those of the senator from South Carolina. Now, if I might continue without interruption. This nomination is being handled with an underhanded attempt to press the senator into silence and to railroad this nomination through the Senate.
Mr. President, will the senator yield for a question?
I have no intention of yielding to either the majority leader or the majority whip. They can have no other purpose but to block criticism of Robert Leffingwell.
Will my good friend and colleague, the distinguished senior senator from Illinois, yield the floor to me?
Under the circumstances, and because we happen to see eye to eye in this matter, I would consider it a privilege to yield the floor to the able and respected senator from South Carolina.
Ah, thank you, sir. Mr. President, I feel I must defend my distinguished colleague from Illinois. It appears that he is beset on every side by snarling enemies, yet it was his intention only to give voice to the simple complaint many of us feel on both sides of the aisle. An honest revulsion. At this nomination, the president has thrown in our teeth.
Mr. President, will this senator yield?
I will not yield, sir, but I will say for you what should say anyway, that this is not the time for personal imputations. Will that satisfy the senator? Was there no other man than this Robert A. Leffingwell? Is our storehouse of brain power so impoverished that for this office, which can affect the destiny of our nation and of the world, there is no other man but Robert A. Leffingwell? I find that hard, indeed impossible to believe.
Will the distinguished senator yield?
Well, now, to my young, handsome, and plenipotent colleague, I will gladly yield.
Looks like Seeb's going to have roast Leif Smith for lunch.
Does the senior senator from South Carolina think he knows more than the president about what or who is needed in these perilous times in the office of Secretary of State?
Yes, Senator. I dare say that even one so young and green as the junior senator from Rhode Island would have chosen another man, wouldn't you, Senator Truth?
The senator assumes an infallibility of knowledge which denotes a closed mind and an aged crust of prejudice.
Who ate who? Mr. President, we have here an example of the commotion this man Leffingwell can arouse. Able, sensitive young senators, taught courtesy at their mother's knees, turn upon their elders and rend them because of their passions over this disturbing man, Robert A. Leffingwell. I beseech senators to contemplate the spectacle we are making of ourselves. Why? What is causing this bitterness of division in our party, Leffingwell? Who is disrupting the cordial flow of legislative interchange, Leffingwell? Who is turning this Senate into a cockpit of angry emotion, Leffingwell? I abominate this man, Leffingwell. He is an evil man. He will pursue a policy of appeasement. He will weaken the moral fiber of our great nation. He will bring destruction to our traditions. And I beg you, senators, reject him. Reject him!
Yes, we went. Shall we have a spin around the floor?
Can I get you a drink?
I will make my government's position on Mr. Leffingwell very clear. In some ways, he is excellent, but in others, not so excellent. In general, I would say we are for him, except when it comes to those features of character in which we might be disposed to be against him. On the whole, that is my government's position. Yes, exactly.
Yes, the inscrutable East can always be depended upon to be inscrutable.
For your dance, darling?
The senator dances beautifully.
Leif is not exactly the log-cabin type.
Raoul, the senator is coming to lunch tomorrow.
Oh, shall be deeply honored, sir. Shall be our first guest at the embassy.
You're very kind.
Bob, see you a minute.
Will you excuse me? Didn't see you at dinner, Fred.
I just got here. Why didn't you take my call from New York this afternoon?
I didn't want to take your call. Is that an honest enough answer?
You're reaching for Brig Anderson all the time, is that it?
No. But we weren't reaching for you either.
He's in the club, isn't he?
What club?
Don't give me that. The inner circle, the clique, the club.
Look, Fred, you forced me to offend you. I'm sorry.
All right, I'm willing to forget it. I'll still campaign for Leffingwell.
Fine, Fred. But let's not irritate the situation.
But Robert Leffingwell is the difference between peace and war. I mean, to fight for him.
Being exclusive, Harley?
Just escaping for a moment.
From the ladies?
Do you mind if I ask you a question that a vice president shouldn't ask?
You mean like, how's the president's health?
I haven't seen him in 6 weeks. He never calls me in.
I don't think he means to slight you, Harley.
He probably does, but that's not why I'm asking. Look, I know I'm only charming Harley, the housewife's delight. I know I was only a compromise candidate for vice president, or I wouldn't be here at all. I never expected to be president, and I hope to God I never will be, and I mean that. But the town's boiling with rumors about his health, and if they're true, I should at least be told.
All right. But this is just my own opinion. I don't think the surgery last year was successful.
Well, I was once the happy governor of Delaware, counting revenue from corporative setups and having tea with the DuPonts. Now...
It hasn't happened yet, and maybe it won't.
Bob, I'm not sure I've got the stuff to be president.
Has anybody? Most presidents have to grow up in the job anyway.
The country could go to hell before I'd grow big enough to see over the desk.
Humility is not the worst attitude you could have toward this job.
It's a nice word for the sheiks, humility.
In any case, you're the only vice president we have, so the Constitution says.
Leffingwell's not only an appeaser, but a spendthrift to boot. Why, he can throw more money out of the back door with a teaspoon than the government can bring in the front door with a shovel. He's going to stage a giveaway to the communists that'll make Munich look like a clam bake.
What do you pump-water politicians think the world's like? You want to get us bombed out of existence for some lousy two-bit country in Lower Slobovia that can't even feed itself? We have got to think of ourselves first and last.
Would the senator yield the floor?
This is no laughing matter to me, Mrs. Anderson.
Oh, then perhaps this isn't the place to discuss it.
Excuse me.
I'm terribly sorry, darling.
Nonsense, Oren. Why, Mr. Leffingwell does cause excitement, doesn't he? go tonight, darling?
Like any party you give, a smasher. You're the best there is, Pat.
Somebody said once, a friend of mine, I'm sure, that any bitch with $1 million and a big house and a good caterer could be a social success in Washington. Do you think I'm a bitch?
You're a perfectly nice one if you are. And I'm probably the first man in your life since your husband died. That's not a question. Don't feel obliged to volunteer information.
You are.
How long do you think I'm going to keep up this backstairs romance?
Front elevator.
Elevator is right. At my age, I need it.
Oh, your age. You're as virile as a billy goat.
Oh, yeah.
And make noises like a wounded spaniel.
No marriage, huh?
And spoil this convenient arrangement? Don't be silly.
I think you're afraid I won't get elected next time.
And no girl wants to be married to a has-been.
Well, we've got that established.
I'm sleepy.
Are you sleepy?
Come to order, please. I'll ask the witness to take his place at the witness table. This hearing of a subcommittee of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee is being held to consider the President's nomination of Robert A. Leffingwell for Secretary of State. Mr. Leffingwell, I'm sure you know all the members of the committee here. Senator Cooley is not a member of the subcommittee, but in a meeting of the full committee, he was voted permission to sit with us for the purposes of cross-examination.
I welcome Senator Cooley's participation, Mr. Chairman, if not wholeheartedly, certainly without fear.
I commend your courage. Frankly, the senator from South Carolina scares the wits out of everybody else. Will you please stand and raise your right hand, Mr. Leffingwell? Do you solemnly swear that the statements you're about to give this committee will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, sir, I do.
Thank you.
Sorry, Greg.
Not at all, Fred.
I'm particularly interested in this hearing. I hope Mr. Leffingwell obtains swift approval from this committee.
I thank the senator for his comments. Now, Mr. Leffingwell, I'm sure you have a statement to make before the interrogation begins.
Mr. Chairman, I believe I might serve this committee best by answering its questions.
As you wish. Senator Knox, would you like to begin?
But don't you feel we're worth the effort of an opening statement, Mr. Leffingwell?
I'm only being practical, Senator.
Well, then I, too, shall be practical, Mr. Leffingwell. Are you loyal to the United States?
I don't mind admitting that I'm loyal to the United States.
But it wasn't an idle question, Mr. Leffingwell. I've had some complaints against things you've said in some of your speeches about our relations with the communists. Some folks have gone so far as to say you're not loyal.
There's no foundation for that, Senator.
I have a quote here from one of your speeches. We must not bind ourselves to outworn principles of the past when we find those principles standing in the way of affirmative action for peace. What does that mean?
I meant the past shouldn't lie too heavily upon our present efforts to achieve world stability.
But you say outworn principles of the past. Well, what principles did you have in mind?
It was more a state of mind I was driving at. Perhaps the word principle was not a good choice.
Orrin, is that speech you got there about defense mobilization?
No, foreign policy.
Mr. Chairman, the witness is presently the director of the Office of Defense Mobilization. What's doing making speeches about foreign policy? Do you reckon he was bucking for the job as Secretary of State?
I responded to an invitation from the Chamber of Commerce of Chicago. The topic they gave me to speak on was foreign policy.
I've seen men angling for high office, Mr. Chairman. That's the way to do it. They make speeches. They flaunt themselves. That's how they do it, yes.
In fact, Mr. Leffingwell, this was only one of a series of speeches on foreign policy, wasn't it?
Yes, sir, that's true.
He made speeches, so what? We all make speeches.
Mr. Leffingwell, you said you merely meant to suggest a state of mind.
This is one cute committee you got here.
Do you think it's wrong, for example, to suspect the good faith of the communists after 4 decades of dishonor?
All things change. I think it wouldn't hurt to assume once in a while there's a desire for peace from the communist world.
On what basis? These pious, hopeful men, Mr. Chairman. These wool-gathering optimists.
Mr. Chairman, can't we get along without this kind of questioning?
At the risk of seeming discourteous to the distinguished senator from South Carolina, I'd like to remind the senator that he's here at the sufferance of the committee.
I thank the esteemed chairman for his courteous chastisement.
Mr. Leffingwell, do I understand you wish to placate the communists?
Not placate, Senator, but neither do I want to kill any chance of agreement before it starts.
In an agreement, what terms do you think would be valid?
I wouldn't know how to answer that without given circumstances.
Will the senator yield?
If the senator will be brief.
The senator wouldn't want me to be too brief where the fate of my country is concerned. Mr. Witness, why are you afraid to tell us what terms you'd make with the communists?
I just explained to Senator Knox that
You're evading. We want to know what you intend to give away to the communists.
I don't intend to give anything away, Senator Cooley.
Why won't you tell us what your terms are? Are you ashamed to disclose these terms?
I have nothing to be ashamed of, and the senator knows it.
He's not responding, Mr. Chairman. This man is hiding something.
Senator Knox, would you reclaim the floor? This isn't getting us anywhere.
I resent the chair's arbitrary attempt to silence cross-examination that will show this man's true intent.
It is common knowledge that no one, nowhere, and at no time has ever been able to silence the distinguished senator from South Carolina.
Well, sir, I might say the chairman's doing a pretty good job of it right now.
If the senator feels the witness is hiding something, would the senator care to make a formal charge?
Well, now that'll just upset everybody. I'll just turn the floor back to Senator Knox.
No more right now, Mr. Chairman.
Senator Velez?
Mr. Leffingwell, what sort of associations did you have when you were teaching at the University of Chicago?
Usual campus associations, other teachers, students.
Well, I have here a telegram from someone named Gelman who claims to have known you at the university. Do you recognize the name?
I don't think so, but that was quite a few years ago, Senator.
Well, he says you associated with left-wingers and communists. Is there anything to that, Mr. Leffingwell?
Well, I'd like to know what Mr. Gelman means by left-wingers or communists. Those terms are tossed about rather carelessly by some people. Will Mr. Gelman be called to testify?
I'm unable to find Mr. Gelman.
Senator, I don't know what to say except the telegram is from some crank.
Senator from Hawaii.
Just a hypothetical question. If the communists demand that we yield certain strategic positions, what would you recommend?
That we reject any such demand.
Even if it meant war?
That's an unlikely hypothesis if we retain our present power of retaliation.
Say it did happen. Would you recommend a preventive attack? Hit the enemy before they could hit us?
No, I wouldn't recommend a preventive attack. I would first try to bargain, try to agree to some of their demands if they would agree to some of ours.
The senator's permission, I'd like to make a little speech to the witness. Mr. Witness, I'd rather go out of this world standing on my 2 hind legs, fighting like a man for things I believe in, than to yield and concede and crawl till there was nothing left of our freedoms and our way of life, but a handful of lost dreams and a fistful of dry dust. Mr. Chairman, mighty comforting to know that all the folks out there aren't being took in by this appeasement talk.
Mr. Chairman, a little while ago, Senator Knox asked me to define what I meant by outworn principles. Senator Cooley is obliged with a perfect illustration. He speaks of standing on his hind legs, fighting like a man as if war were still some rousing charge up San Juan Hill with flags flying and bugles sounding. It's this kind of 19th century notion I was talking about, this don't tread on me, walk softly and carry a big stick, damn the torpedoes, full speed ahead state of mind. Senator Cooley's state of mind.
It seems to me that the senator from South Carolina was speaking out of pride. Do you think we should discontinue pride in our freedoms and our way of life?
I believe it's dangerous to negotiate survival with pride determining our attitude.
I wonder if there isn't a great deal of good sense in what Senator Cooley had to say. I wonder if we can't become too equivocal. I wonder if we can't reason away in the name of survival everything worth surviving for.
That's a hard line to walk, Mr. Chairman, but we have no choice but to try and walk it. I'm sorry to say we can't always know where we're going.
As long as we know where we're not going. Any questions, Senator Handishot?
You're what they call an egghead, aren't you, Mr. Witness?
I'm not only an egghead, Senator, I'm a premeditated egghead. I set out to become an egghead, and at this moment I'm in full flower of eggheadedness. I hope to shed pollen wherever I go.
Well, if there are no objections, we could leave them laughing while we have some lunch. We'll take it up again at 1:30, Mr. Leffingwell.
Leffingwell, do you think the committee's trying to smear you?
The committee's asking the questions they feel they should ask.
But some of these questions have obviously been smear questions, haven't
Right now, my main interest is getting a bite of lunch.
If the nominee won't answer that question, I will. The committee is being used as an instrument to smear Mr. Leffingwell.
What about that, Mr. Leffingwell?
Yeah, what about that, sir?
Senator Van Ackerman is entitled to his opinion. Will you excuse me, please?
Senator, you don't like the way this hearing's being conducted, do you?
Now, the chairman should stop these irresponsible questions. He doesn't because he doesn't want to. They're out to crucify Mr. Leffingwell.
Senator Anderson, Senator Van Ackerman is accusing the committee of using smear tactics. Would you comment on this?
If the senator has any complaints to make, he ought to write a letter to his congressman.
Senator, will you give Steve Cooley a free hand?
Come on. Come on.
You believe war can be avoided, Mr. Leffingwell?
I believe it must be avoided, but I don't think we can avoid it by rattling sabers.
That's all, Mr. Chairman.
And now, Mr. Leffingwell, it becomes necessary to turn you over to the tender mercies of the senator from South Carolina.
I'm girded for the occasion, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have no questions, Mr. Chairman.
In that case, I don't see any reason why we can't adjourn the hearing. If there are no objections.
Would the nominee mind staying with us for just a smidgen longer? I have no questions, Mr. Chairman, but I have a witness I'd like to call.
Call your witness, Senator.
Herbert Gelman.
Will the photographers withdraw to the sidelines, please? Are you Herbert Gelman?
That's my name.
Raise your right hand, please. Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give this committee will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, sir, I swear.
Take a seat, please. Where do you live, Mr. Gelman?
2221 Grove Place, Northeast, here in Washington.
Your occupation?
I'm a clerk in the Treasury Department.
Did you send this telegram to Senator Valles? And Mr. Gelman, would you mind speaking just a little bit louder, please?
Yes, yes, sir.
Why didn't you put your address on it so the senator could contact you?
That was Senator Cooley's idea.
What did Senator Cooley have to do with it?
He suggested that I send a telegram to Senator Velez.
Is this true, Senator Cooley?
It is, Mr. Chairman.
Why didn't you tell us this when Senator Velez introduced the telegram?
I was just giving the nominee enough rope to hang himself.
I resent being used as a cat's paw by the senator from South Carolina.
I apologize to the senator from New Mexico. The senator will forgive me when he hears what this new witness has to say.
Do you know Robert Leffingwell, Mr. Gelman?
Yes, sir.
Intimately?
Well, not intimately.
Well, how? On sight or how?
Well, closer than that. I worked for the Federal Power Commission when he was chairman.
In his office?
No, sir, a subsidiary agency. But I knew him before then in Chicago. I was in one of his classes at the university.
I see. Does he know you?
He ought to. He fired me from the Federal Power Agency.
For what reason were you fired?
He just wanted to get me out of the agency. I knew too much.
About what?
About him.
What do you know about him?
He's a communist.
Grigg, the nominee has a right to cross-examine this man.
I was just about to ask Mr. Leffingwell if you'd like to cross-examine as we go along.
Thank you, but I'll wait till he's finished, Mr. Chairman.
Senator Cooley, he's all yours.
Now, sir, Mr. Herbert Gelman, will you please tell the committee how you happened to be here?
I came to you about Mr. Leffingwell.
Now, I want you to tell the committee and the nation what you told me in my office.
Yes, sir. When I was going to the University of Chicago, I lived at 2714 Carpenter Street. And I got to know a man who also had a room there named Max Bukowski. And he invited...
How do you spell that name, Mr. Gelman?
B-U-K-O-W-S-K-I.
Would you continue, please?
Bukowski invited me to sit in on political discussions in his room. I went to several of these discussions before I realized that I was getting involved in a communist cell. I dropped out.
Who was in this communist cell?
Bukowski was the leader. There was a man named James Morton. And then there was Mr. Robert Leffingwell.
You knew Mr. Leffingwell?
Well, like I said, I was in one of his classes at the university.
Now, I'm going to ask you to tell the committee what was discussed at these meetings. But I want to tell the committee that I in no way coached this witness. The words that he uses are his own words, Mr. Gelman.
Max Bukowski was a dogmatic Marxist. He didn't feel that communism could come to America without violent revolution. But James Morton and Mr. Leffingwell felt that communism would come as a result of the erosion of our form of government. I remember James Morton saying that our principles would become outworn.
Now, it seems to me we've heard that from somebody else today, not mentioning any names, of course.
Brigg, we'll want verification of this man's story.
I thank the senator for pointing that out.
Well, somebody's got to point something out. I'd advise you to demand verification.
I thank the senator for his advice. Would the senator care to sit with the committee?
Are you trying to choke me off, Brigg?
Not at all, Fred. Continue, please.
Now, Mr. Gelman, you told me something about names in this communist cell.
Yes. Nobody used their right name. Mr. Leffingwell was called Walker. Bukowski was called Fitzgerald. I never learned James Morton's real name. And they tried to give me the name of Andrews. And about that time, I quit.
What happened when you quit?
Mr. Leffingwell failed me in his class on government administration.
Why didn't you report all this to the university authorities?
I was afraid.
And you're not afraid now?
Yes, I'm afraid. But I couldn't stand by and see a man like Mr. Leffingwell get into a position of such power as Secretary of State.
Can you corroborate this story, Mr. Gelman?
The man's an eyewitness under oath, Mr. Chairman.
I'm not lying!
I didn't say you were lying. Where can we find Max Bukowski and James Morton?
Bukowski's dead. I never saw James Morton again.
Maybe Mr. Robert A. Leffingwell can help us to locate this James Morton.
Mr. Chairman, would the committee grant me 1 hour to prepare an answer to this testimony?
If he can defend himself, let him do it right now.
The committee will extend this courtesy to the nominee. We'll stand recessed until 3:30.
that tale yourself. Come on.
Anyway, I'm rocking the boat.
He's going to cut this Gelman up 4 ways from Sunday, and I'm going to pick off just enough votes to push him into office. What do you think about that, you old buzzard?
Us old buzzards can see a mouse dying from 10,000 feet up. Us old buzzards have the sharpest eyes in creation. Right now, I'm studying the terrain.
Led by questions from Senator Brigham Anderson, the witness flatly stated that Robert Leffingwell was a communist. He claimed he had once been in a communist cell with Leffingwell. Senator Cooley took over the interrogation.
George is hiding my new record album.
I haven't even seen her old album.
He has seen it. He's got it, Daddy.
Now, if you kids don't go in there and behave, I'm going to tell Mother.
And Robert Leffingwell seemed to be as flabbergasted as everyone else.
I've been watching the whole awful business on television.
Who has scrupulously...
Sit down.
Hardiman, when I go back to the hearing, I mean to tell them the whole story. Chicago, Gelman, everything. They'll ask questions. You're bound to come into it. Might be better if you're there with me. We can make them understand how it really was.
Make who understand? Who would even want to understand?
We've got nothing to lose by trying.
Nothing to lose?
I'm under oath, Hardiman.
I know you're under oath, but wait a minute here. I've got a family to feed. Leff, look, if we do what you want, we'll not only be through in government, we'll never even be able to get a job teaching school again. You know what happens when some of these red-baiting newspapers get the scent?
I know that, but what can I do?
Withdraw. Don't go back to the hearing. Anything.
That'd be the worst admission of guilt I could make. There'd be a Senate investigation in 24 hours of you in the same spot we're in now.
All right. Tell me this. What do you owe these politicians? Nothing. They let that old megalomaniac Cooley bring a half-witted clerk to testify against you, didn't they? Leff, I know you're a man of principle. I admire you for it, but this is no time to go by the books.
I don't know, Hardiman.
Well, you've got to know. You'll be putting your head on a chopping block, and mine along with it. Look, you talk about being under oath. What about Gelman? His testimony was shot with lies. He was never in one of your classes at the university. Destroy him. It's easy for you, Leff.
Will the chair please administer the oath to Mr. Lewis Newborn of the Federal Power Commission?
Would you stand and raise your right hand, please? Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give this committee will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you. You may be seated.
First, Mr. Chairman, let me say that I do know Herbert Gelman.
Looks like we might have smoked us out a possum, Mr. Chairman.
Afraid there'll be no possum stew in the old coolie pot tonight, Senator. I realized I knew Herbert Gelman only after I'd heard his testimony. May I question Mr. Gelman?
By all means.
Mr. Gelman, before you were detached from the Federal Power Commission, you'd been ill for a long while, isn't that correct?
I was in a tuberculosis sanitarium.
Tuberculosis sanitarium?
You know that, Mr. Leffingwell. You fired me when I tried to come back to go to work.
Can you tell us the name of this tuberculosis sanitarium?
The name?
Yes, the name. It had a name, didn't it?
The name? I can't think of the name. It was in the country in Maryland.
Thank you. Mr. Newborn, do you know Herbert Gelman?
Oh, yes. I was his immediate superior in the Federal Power Agency.
Will you please tell the committee the true cause of Mr. Gelman's illness?
Well, it wasn't tuberculosis. Herbert. Mr. Gelman had a mental breakdown. And the sanitarium was the Elm Grove rest home right outside of Baltimore.
And what happened when he came back to work?
He seemed, well, kind of shaky. He couldn't seem to get a hold of the job. I went to Mr. Leffingwell and I told him that I wanted to let Gelman go. Mr. Leffingwell said he'd try and find him another job. Well, a few days later, on Mr. Leffingwell's instructions, I discharged Gelman and recommended that he make an application to the Department of the Treasury. He made an application, and he went to work over there.
This, Mr. Chairman, is the sum total of my knowledge of Herbert Gelman. Except for one thing, I telephoned the University of Chicago to find out if he'd ever been a student of mine. The registrar told me that Gelman had been at the university a short time, but there was no record of his ever attending any of my classes. This will be confirmed by telegram from the registrar to the committee.
What do you have to say to this, Mr. Gelman?
I thought it was my duty as a citizen to come here, expose Mr. Leffingwell.
You will receive another telegram, Mr. Chairman, this one from the City Planning Office of Chicago. It seems this address, 2714 Carpenter Street, where this communist cell practiced its mumbo-jumbo, according to Mr. Gelman. This address has been a fire station for more than 50 years.
Did you have a mental breakdown, Mr. Gelman? Do you still insist you were fired by Mr. Leffingwell because you knew too much?
I didn't know that he got me the job in the Treasury Department.
Could you have been mistaken about being in Mr. Leffingwell's classes in the university?
I don't know.
And what about 2714 Carpenter Street?
Well, it might not be the right number. I may not remember for sure.
Perhaps you don't remember other things for sure.
Well, if I did, would anybody believe me?
I think we can let this witness go. Thank you, Mr. Gelman. I said you could go, Mr. Gelman. This committee owes you an apology, Mr. Leffingwell. Perhaps Senator Cooley would like to join us in that?
Senator Cooley isn't joining anybody in anything. Senator Cooley wants a transcript of this hearing at the earliest possible moment.
The committee owes me no apology, Mr. Chairman, nor do they owe me approval. Win, lose, or draw, I shall continue to serve my country when and wherever I can.
Yes, sir?
Why, I'd surely be obliged if I could see the employment record of Mr. Herbert Gelman.
Well, I'm sorry, sir, but employment records are privileged information.
You might say that I am privileged. I'm Senator Cooley. You're a mighty pretty gal, yes, ma'am, mighty pretty. I'm not entirely sure in which section of this building Mr. Gelman works.
Mr. Leffingwell.
Well, lad. Congratulations.
I appreciate you arranging to see me so quickly. I know how busy you probably are.
Glad you called. I wanted to see you. Sit down. Bobby thinks the committee will go 4-1 in your favor, and he has enough votes sewed up to squeeze you through on the floor. So it looks like you're in. How'd you like to have a drink on that, Mr. Secretary?
Mr. President, I'm not in, and I'm not going to be in.
Yes, sir.
What are you talking about?
Yes, sir.
Nothing. Sorry.
Mr. President, I want you to withdraw my nomination. I lied at the hearing. I knew Herbert Gelman. I knew him in Chicago. I knew him at those meetings. They were communist meetings, Mr. President. I was never a party member, but I was young, looking for a cause. Didn't take long to discover that wasn't it, and I dropped out. Please believe that, Mr. President. It's true. But I am guilty of one bad error. I gave Herbert Gelman a job to keep him from talking. When I saw Gelman in the hearing room, I knew Cooley had me set up for the witch hunters. I wish I could tell you I'm sorry I lied. I'm only sorry I had to lie.
Anybody else know you lied?
One person, Hardeman Fletcher.
Fletcher of the Treasury Department?
Yes.
Will he talk?
No, Fletcher was the third man in Chicago. He was James Morton.
Hello, Senator.
Well, Mr. Fletcher, I surely do appreciate you keeping this little rendezvous.
Well, who are we hiding from, Senator? Why?
I thought maybe us meeting here by this fine old monument might have salutary effect in our conversation. It wasn't George Washington that couldn't tell a lie, wasn't it, Mr. Fletcher? I sometimes forget my schoolboy history. Shall we take a little walk? The thought came to me, Mr. Fletcher, not like a bolt from the blue, more insinuating like a soft breeze off the river. I thought, why did Robert A. Leffingwell have Herbert Gelman apply to the Treasury Department for a job? Why didn't he send him through civil service for a job?
Are you asking me a question?
Not yet, Mr. Fletcher, not yet. I gallivanted over to the Treasury Department this afternoon, and I just sort of looked up Herbert Gelman's record, and I discovered that you approved Herbert's application, personally approved it.
Look here, Senator, will you get to the point?
The point is I was going to give you a break, Mr. Fletcher. Looks like you see fit to turn down my southern generosity.
Senator Cooley, I'm a loyal citizen.
I didn't say you weren't. I might have to start an investigation to prove you're loyal, Mr. Fletcher. Mr. James Morton.
What is this break you were going to give me?
Simple. Make a telephone call to Brigham Anderson. Offer him a small confession. Not mentioning I had anything to do with it, just made out of your own conscience.
What happens then?
Well, natural course will be followed to protect the president and our party. Your confidence won't be betrayed, Mr. Fletcher. And you'll have done a noble duty, sir. Yes, sir. Noble.
Senator Knox?
Oh, thank you. Senators, looks like we won't be voting today. It's from Brigg. He's postponed it.
For what reason?
He doesn't say.
Are you sure it was Fletcher who called you?
I made sure. I called him back at his home.
Has he told this to anyone but you?
He said none.
Why in hell did he open up this can of beans?
He said he felt he should do the right thing.
Ah, nuts. He's protecting himself. Bess.
Yes, sir.
Get through to the president at Camp David. Tell his secretary I want him next, and I don't care who's ahead of me, the Queen of England.
And it is not enough that the subcommittee has permitted a great man to be smeared. Now the chairman of that subcommittee is deliberately blocking the committee vote. It's just one more thing to add to the most unfair hearing in the history of the Senate.
Mr. President, will the senator yield for a question?
Will the senator yield for a question?
I'll yield to the senator from Kansas.
Mr. President, I must admit I'm not a supporter of Mr. Leffingwell, but I watched the hearing on television and it seemed eminently fair to me.
Mr. President, I'm sorry if the senator from Kansas was not perceptive enough to grasp what was obvious. I am telling the Senate exactly what happened.
As much as I appreciate hearing about the senator's particular view, I am constrained to say I will need more substantial proof than the senator's personal description.
Mr. President, is the senator calling me a liar?
The record must stand as it is, Mr. President. How the senator interprets that record is his own problem, not mine.
Mr. President, I'm sure the senator from Kansas is welcome to take advantage of her sex.
Oh, Fred, come off it.
You think it's funny? You think the world thinks it's funny? You think the world thinks it's funny that the Senate is trying to smear a man who believes in peace? Do you think the people of this country think it's funny? Does the senator from Utah think it's funny? Will the senator from Utah tell us why he is blocking the committee vote? I can tell you why. He is assassinating the character and reputation of Robert Leffingwell.
The senator asked me a question, and then he answers it himself. I prefer to make my own reply, Mr. President. As chairman of the subcommittee, I seek only to do my duty, and that I will do despite the hysterical tantrums of the senator from Wyoming. The senator is frightening no one except perhaps the children in the visitors' gallery.
I'm not too sure that the senator from Utah can't be frightened. There are ways to frighten any man, even the senator from Utah. Every man has his Achilles.
The chair is tolerant, as everybody knows. But there'll be no threats made on the floor of this chamber.
What happened to Harley? I don't know.
I apologize to the chair. In my anxiety for a great cause, I was carried away. Will the chair entertain a motion?
Make your motion.
I move that the Committee on Foreign Relations be discharged from further consideration of the nominee for Secretary of State, and that the Senate vote upon Robert A. Leffingwell here and now.
Did he clear this with you?
He did not.
Bob, I can't let this pass. I'm going to have to open up.
I'll try and stop it. Make Van Ackerman withdraw the motion. Tell him we haven't enough votes. Tell him anything. Mr. President.
The senior senator from Michigan.
Mr. President, it would certainly be a dramatic affirmation of the nominee if we were to bypass the regular procedures of the Senate and vote him into office this afternoon.
No, I won't withdraw. He should have made the motion himself.
The deliberate balance of power in our government, as created by the Constitution, is the most brilliant device for the protection of liberty ever conceived by free men.
We're not ready for this, Fred. Don't you understand?
And judicial powers are checked by each other, that none can become absolute, has made this government the miracle of the ages. We must always guard this balance, or this great dream of liberty, within discipline which is America, will die.
I tell you, we haven't got the votes. You'll get him beat before we can get him out of the committee.
The citizens of this republic for almost 2 centuries. Now, Senator Van Ackerman's motion proposes to ride over those procedures. Though I hope for the eventual confirmation of the nominee, I ask that this motion be defeated. It won't hurt Mr. Leffingwell if he isn't confirmed by sundown today or even sundown tomorrow. But it might hurt us most grievously if we do what suits us in the heat and passion of the passing moment.
Is there a request for the yeas and nays?
Squarehead Anderson can't block this.
Senators, do I hear a request for the yeas and nays? A quorum, maybe.
What got your tongue today? You're usually shaking the rafters by now.
Just my day for sunning myself, Mr. Majority Leader, like an old bullfrog on a lily
Do I hear a request for the
You've got
yeas
to
and nays?
withdraw.
Does anybody want to say anything at all?
Mr. President.
Saved by the senator from Wyoming.
Mr. President, I have decided to heed the wisdom of the esteemed Majority Leader, who has pointed out the danger in my motion. I would not wish to abuse this citadel of freedom. I will instead humble myself before my peers and withdraw the...
You know, this news about Leffingwell hit the president pretty hard. He's got a lot of faith in him.
Sorry.
He's coming to the correspondence banquet tonight. You going?
I plan to.
He'd like to see you, Brig. Could you come up to my place afterwards?
What can I tell him? I haven't told you. All he has to do is withdraw the man.
Did I eat crow nicely, Bob?
Yeah, you did fine, Fred. Thanks for your cooperation.
Is Brig cooperating?
Anytime old Brig isn't cooperating, I might be able to change his mind. Just let me know.
Get off my back, Fred.
Bob, see you a minute.
Okay for after the banquet break?
Sure, all right.
I told you made a mistake with him. He's trouble.
Fred, will you please butt out of this? Believe me, you're not doing Leffingwell's case any good.
Okay. But if you want Brigg whipped into line, I've got the whip on file.
I'm sure we can manage without your file.
Gentlemen, tonight is the one night in the year when we're honor-bound not to be reporters. Our guests may speak freely and not have to read 100 versions of what they said in the morning papers. So with that assurance, I give you the President of the United States.
Fellow members of the White House Correspondents Association. The man says there are no reporters present tonight, but I'm going to exercise the privilege given me by my gold membership card and reverse that traditional ruling. Tonight, gentlemen, there are reporters present. So get out your pencils. We'll write ourselves a story.
This plan? Not by me.
I see down there at table number 3, the senior senator from South Carolina. Hello, Seed. Then over there at table 7, I see the senator from Utah, Brigham Anderson. Hi, Brigham. I said hi, Brigham. Now, a few days ago, the President of the United States nominated a man for Secretary of State who the President thinks is a pretty good man, and he wants that man confirmed by the Senate. But the senior senator from South Carolina, for reasons of his own, and those reasons are never like anybody else's reasons. The senator is opposed to my nominee. Well, everybody expected that. We'd all have been disappointed if Seeb hadn't reared back and huffed and puffed and tried to blow the house down. But now comes Senator Brigham Anderson, who nobody suspected of being a big bad wolf. And he goes Seeb Cooley one better by trying to dig a tunnel under the house. Then this is your story, fellow members of the White House Correspondents Association. The President is standing by his nominee. Despite Seeb Cooley's windstorms and Brigham Anderson's tunneling, you can tell your readers that the President hasn't changed his mind about his nominee one fraction of an inch. He's going to fight for that confirmation no matter what.
What are you clapping for?
I can afford to be charitable, sir.
Mr. President.
Sore at me, Brigham?
Frankly, I'm puzzled, Mr. President.
Gentlemen, there's coffee and brandy here if you want. I'll trot back down to the banquet room.
If the President doesn't mind, I'd like to have you stay.
Well, what's the matter, Brigham? You think you need a witness?
I'm not sure, Mr. President.
You'd better stay, Bobby. Sit down. Sit down. I have a feeling I might need some help with this young man. Brigham, of course, you know I'm grateful the way you put the lid on this matter.
I didn't get that impression tonight, Mr. President.
Well, Senator, a president has to stand up for a man he sends down to the Senate. You know that.
Yes, sir, but it just seems to me the sooner you withdraw him, the sooner this will blow over.
I still want him, Brigham.
If we open this up, he won't be confirmed. I'm sure Senator Munson told you that.
Yes, but if we don't open it up, we've got enough votes committed to put him through.
I've gone as far as I can with this, Mr. President.
Well, I think the circumstances might permit you to go a little further. You don't seriously believe Leffingwell's a communist, do you?
Whether he is or not, he lied under oath.
Aren't you interested in why he lied?
Well, I'm not completely unsympathetic, but I just think that...
You think he should let himself be ruined just because he flirted with communism a long time ago?
But the point is, he should have told the committee that he had flirted with communism instead of lying about it on the stand.
Well, maybe there's nothing in your young life you'd like to conceal, but we're not all of us that fortunate. We have to make the best of our mistakes. That's all Leffingwell has done. As the leader of our party, I'm asking you, let me judge the man.
Mr. President, I don't want to wreck his life. I don't want to deprive you of his services in some other office. But in this case, his confirmation as Secretary of State, I am bound by my duty to my committee.
You also owe a duty to your party.
I can't subvert the purpose of a Senate committee.
You don't think Seed Cooley subverted the purpose of the committee? He's used it as a forum in a personal vendetta.
Mr. President, I'm sorry, but your arguments won't wash with me.
My prestige is riding on this nomination. The prestige of this country, Senator Anderson. By God, that ought to wash. Or don't you know we're in trouble in the big world outside that little subcommittee of yours?
Yes, sir, I know our prestige will suffer. But it will suffer a lot more if I have to show up your nominee as a bare-faced liar. If you won't withdraw him, I'll have to reopen and call Hardeman Fletcher as a witness.
Then do it. Do what you like. I won't withdraw. Good night, Bobby.
Good night, Mr. President. He has a case, Brigg. You can't always cut it black or white. Not in these times.
But this is black and white. I just don't understand you. You make a great speech about the balance of power, and then you ignore your responsibility as a senator and want me to rubber stamp this nomination just to please the president.
I guess it is inconsistent, but I've come a long way with him ever since we were Green congressmen together. He's pulled us through 6 hard years of crisis. He's tired, Brigg, and he's ill. I love the man. I guess I can stretch my responsibility a little, enough to help him.
I'm sorry, but mine won't stretch.
All right, give him a few days to save face, and then we'll put up another nominee.
That isn't what the president said.
He'll bend if he has to, and I guess he has to.
Brig?
Oh, I'm sorry.
I was waiting for you.
This was a night, Mrs. Anderson. Your husband had a knockdown and drag out with the President of the United States.
Oh, Brig.
It's all right, I won.
I had a very strange phone call, Brig.
Strange? Who was it?
I don't know, a man. He said to tell you before you go on with the Leffingwell matter, you ought to remember what happened in Hawaii. And then he hung up. What happened in Hawaii, Brig?
What was the voice like?
It was Crawley. He made it sound like he knew some kind of nasty secret.
Well, I've been on the front pages the past few days. I'm bound to get some crackpot calls. Just hang up if you get any more.
Are you sure you're doing the right thing about Leffingwell, Brig?
Yes, darling, I'm sure. Don't worry about it.
What did he mean about Hawaii?
I was stationed there when I was in the Army, but I don't see what that would have to do with Leffingwell. Just some crackpot, darling, that's all.
Hello?
Mrs. Anderson, did you speak to your husband?
What do you want? Who are you?
We're serious about this, Mrs. Anderson.
You called here once.
Hello? Hello? I thought I told you to hang up on those calls.
Brig, I'm frightened.
Now, look, there is nothing to be frightened of, Ellen, nothing. Come on, let's have some breakfast.
The senator handling the Inland Waterways bill can't be present this afternoon. Yet if the senator from Michigan will agree, I would like to ask that nothing be put ahead of this bill. Since the afternoon is an extremely busy one in the committee
When is
room,
the president going to announce the
perhaps
withdrawal?
it would not be
I
impractical
can't hurry
to
him, Brig.
recess
After all,
this
we don't
time.
run that end of the avenue. I should be very glad to accommodate the senator, Mr. President. I move we stand in recess until 12 noon tomorrow.
Without objection? So ordered.
Have you seen him?
He's on a destroyer at Chesapeake Bay for the start of the naval boat race. Come on, don't look so worried. After all, you won your point last night. Have a cup of coffee with me.
No, thanks.
Early recess, Senator.
Hello, Steve.
Man can get to living like a mole in the halls of that old Capitol. Me, I'll just sit out here for a while most every day, winter or summer. You look like you got the burden, son. Sit down. You got 'em treed, haven't you, Senator? Look out they don't shinny down on top of you. You're dealing with devious men, Senator. Yes, sir. Devious, powerful men. Hardeman Fletcher took a plane to Europe this afternoon. Mission for the president. Going to make a study of world currency problems. Know that? Well, it'll be in the papers tomorrow morning.
Where do you come into this, Steve?
Well, let's just say you got a friend. Powerful, devious friend.
Thanks. Thanks, I might need him.
Hi, Brig. Change your mind?
I just want to verify something. Something about Hardeman Fletcher.
What about Hardeman Fletcher?
Is this an act?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Go now.
I give you my word, I don't know anything about it.
I don't understand why the president did this.
The only thing I can think of is just making sure you won't jump the gun until he's ready.
Hello?
Oh, yes, he's here. Who's this? Just a minute, please. Oh, Brigg has a call for you.
For me?
Yeah, it's your clerk.
Hello?
Hello. Senator Addison?
Who's this?
Well, it's not your clerk. Don't hang up, Senator. You'll be interested in this. We have the stuff about Hawaii. If you don't want us to use it, you'll get out of Leffingwell's way. This is no joke, Senator. We'll use it.
Use what? What? I don't know what...
It's a photograph, Senator. And a letter.
Listen, I won't be scared off. I mean it. I'm not going to carry this anymore. I'll get up on the floor of the Senate and I'll tell it all.
Hey, take it easy. What's the matter?
He withdraws, you understand me? I don't mean tomorrow, I don't mean next week. I mean today, you understand? Today! Will you come in, Miss Foster? There was a man about 5 or 6 weeks ago. His name was Raymond Schaff. Ray, he probably said. I didn't want to talk to him. Ray Schaff, do you remember?
Yes, he called several times. He also came to the office.
Did he leave a number?
I think so. Senator?
Yes, Miss Foster?
I have no telephone number, but I have an address in New York City.
Thank you. Would you just put it on my desk, please? Why send Fletcher away?
I told you, Senator, I had nothing to do with it. I haven't seen her talk to the president since the night after the hearing.
Do you expect me to believe that you don't know whether he's going to withdraw you or not?
You understand, Senator. I put myself at his disposal. I'm waiting for him to tell me what he wants to do.
Well, I won't wait. I don't need Fletcher. I'll convene the hearing and I'll call you back on the stand. You won't lie this time.
You can't do that, Senator.
I've got to do it.
Why, Senator? What does a day matter? Or 2 days? You have the whip hand.
I'm giving you a chance. Call the press and announce your withdrawal and forget the president.
I've given the president my word.
Your word is not exactly the coin of the realm.
No, maybe it isn't thanks to your committee, but I still place a value on it. And there's nothing more to be said. Good afternoon, Senator. Did you hear all of that, Johnny? Did you understand it? Well, I don't exactly know how to explain it, Johnny.
Okay.
Now, wait a minute. I could tell you the truth. Sit down, Johnny.
Brigg? I'd like to talk to you, please.
another call, Brigg. Yes, I took the call. Since when have I become the little woman who's supposed to sit at home and know nothing? Brigg, I've campaigned with you. I've worked for you. I know politics isn't all love thy neighbor and friendship. I know how cruel it can be. Now there's trouble, and I want to know what it is.
Please, Daddy, you promised to play with me.
In a minute, Pidge.
Do you know someone named Ray?
Please, Daddy.
Please, Pidge. Go back in the garden. Daddy'll be there in a minute. He said to tell you that they had bought Ray. What does that mean?
I don't know.
You must know.
Will you please just leave this to me?
It's coming into my home on that telephone. They're calling me, Brigg. They're trying to force you to do something through me. Now, you've got to tell me what it is.
You're getting all hysterical about nothing now. I don't know what those phone calls are about, but I'm trying to find out.
For the first time in our lives, you're not telling me the truth. That awful creature on the telephone, he knows what he's talking about. He's not making something up. Now, something's going to happen if you don't do what he wants, and you've got to prepare me for it.
Ellen, please, don't press me. I've got to have time to work this out.
Why can't I help you? What do you think I live for? You're my whole life, you and Pidge. There isn't anything else.
I know that.
If they're threatening you through me, it can only mean one thing. It's about a woman, isn't it? Is that why you're afraid to tell me? I know I'm not everything a wife should be. I know we haven't had an exciting marriage. It's my fault.
Darling, nothing in the whole world is your fault. This is something from a long time ago, before I even knew you. If I could only...
Tell me, Brigg, tell me.
I can't.
Then you better do what these people want. It doesn't seem so very much. Not if it means that our whole...
If I were to do what these people want, then everything that I've tried to be, everything that I've tried to stand for in my life would be just thrown away. No.
Brigg, I can't wait for a mountain to fall on me. I can't be that brave. I'll take Pidge and leave. Shall I do that? Shall I take Pidge and go? What do you expect me to do? All I want to do is stand beside you, and you give me no place to stand.
I want you to wait. Wait for just a little while. If I can't stop these people, then I'll tell you all there is to tell, everything. And you can decide. But wait, please, wait.
And if you do stop them,
I'll ask you to try to forget this ever happened.
oh, I couldn't leave you. No matter what happens, I couldn't leave you.
Hurry up, Daddy. Hurry up, Daddy. It's getting dark.
Go and help her with the silly fish. I have to do something about dinner.
Where's Daddy going?
Have you any luggage, Senator?
No, no luggage.
Full flight 338, VIP, Senator Anderson. Gate 11, sir. Thank you.
And Brigg was more determined than ever the president should withdraw Mr. Leffingwell. And these telephone calls began to come. I don't know what else to tell you, Leif. I know I'm meddling. I know Brigg will be angry and embarrassed if he finds out I talked to you.
Maybe he won't have to know.
I said some things to him I shouldn't have said. He was desperate when he left, really desperate, Leif.
He might be protecting someone else. Have you thought of that?
Yes, that might be it. That's like Brigg.
I tell you what. When he comes home, tell him to call me at Dolly Harrison's. I'll get around him, find out what it's all about. Now you stop worrying.
I'm sorry to bother you, Leif.
I'm glad you did. What's a friend for?
This must be Leif. Excuse me. Well, Senator, we were just about to begin without you.
I'm sorry, Dolly. It was unavoidable.
I'm sure she must have been.
Oh, Dolly, would you get Bob to drift out here for a minute?
Oh, we are serious, aren't we? Of course.
Hello, lover.
Bob, I know about the argument between Brigg and the president.
How?
His wife.
Now I know why I never married again.
No, she's scared. Bob, Brigg's got a blackmailer on his tail.
Blackmailer?
You know anything about it?
Are you joking?
That's about Leffingwell. Thought maybe you had some ideas.
Where is Brigg?
Been looking for him. That's why I'm late.
Blackmail? You sure his wife isn't exaggerating?
I don't believe so. Well?
Yes, I might have some ideas. Why in the devil didn't he come to me with this, or to you, somebody? Did you leave word for him to call you here?
His wife will tell him, and they'll tell him at the office.
Yes. Ray? Who is it? Is this Raymond Schaff? Hello?
You want Ray?
Yes, please.
He doesn't live here, you know.
Well, he left this apartment number.
I'm a friend of Ray's. Are you a friend of Ray's?
Do you know where I can find him?
Won't you sit down, please?
Do you know where I can find Ray?
Please, sit. I'm making some tea. Would you like some tea?
Thanks, just the same.
My name is Manuel. I didn't get your name.
If you know where I can reach Ray, I'd appreciate it.
I said I didn't get your name.
Anderson.
Where are you from, Mr. Anderson?
Well, if it's any help, I'm from out of town, Utah. I knew Ray in the Army.
Oh, Utah, way out west. Mormons, and this is the place and all that.
Mr. Manuel, if you don't mind, I'm in kind of a hurry.
I have kind of a mail and answering service here for friends like Ray. Nothing big. Confidential, you understand. See?
Oh, yes. Yes, I see. Will this do?
Oh, anything. Just put it there. Would you like to meet Ray here?
Can't you give me his address or phone number?
It's convenient here. It's quiet. Cream or lemon?
Mr. Manuel, do you know where Ray is or don't you?
Oh, it's like that. Urgent, sudden. PDQ. Oh, won't you sit down, please?
Yes, it's urgent.
I think he'll be at 6:02. It's a big night at 602.
602 what?
The club, 602. I'll give you the address. You can come back here with Ray. I mean, you've paid.
Let me hear a voice, a secret voice, a voice that will say, come to me and be what I need you to be. Long alone, I have sung the loser's song.
Well, come on in. Don't just stand there. Gee, don't run off.
Are tightly bound.
Ray?
Together.
Ray, you're with me.
Bree? Wait a moment, Brigg. Taxi! Explain. Brigg, wait a moment. Taxi! Brigg? I needed money, Brigg. Well, you wouldn't see me. I kept calling. I was drunk, Brigg. If I only knew I wouldn't have hurt you. Try, will you try? Well, Brigg, I only needed...
Please fasten your seatbelt, Senator.
Brigg?
Lee, sure. Well, I didn't see you.
You'd rather sleep?
No. Sit there. Well, what time do we get to Old Foggy Bottom?
About midnight.
What? Oh, what were you doing in New York? Making a speech?
PTA convention. You?
Business, just business.
Are you going to give in? On Leffingwell, I mean.
I know what you mean, but what do you know about it?
Well, I can't say I know anything. I'm not included in very much, either by the senators or the president. But that doesn't prevent me from doing a little guesswork. You're being pushed and pushed hard, aren't you, Brigg? Why are you going in alone? That's what I don't understand. Some character once said that being vice president isn't exactly a crime. They can't put you in jail for it. But it is a sort of a disgrace, like living in a mansion with no furniture. If you don't mind traveling in such impoverished company, I might be able to help you.
Harley, I've suddenly gotten the feeling that you're the most underestimated man in Washington.
Anything I can do, Brigg?
Maybe you're right. Maybe if...
Go ahead.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are approaching an area of possible turbulence. Please fasten your seatbelts. Thank you.
Brigg?
Forget it, Harley. Please, forget it.
Looks like rain. I'll run you home. Come on, hop in.
What? Oh, no, thanks, Harley. I've got my car over here.
Ray, do you feel all right?
Good night, Harley.
Good evening, Senator.
Hi, Mike.
Senator Smith was around looking for you. He said you can get him at Mrs. Harrison's.
Thanks.
But the elevators are running, Senator. Senator? You in there, Senator? It's Mike, Senator.
Ace queen bets 3.
Dear me, I may be forced to drop out.
Is that how the British played their cards at Waterloo?
No, but it served us well at Dunkirk. Different hands, of course.
Out.
No good. Nope. Running a Sandy, Seabright?
No, I'm running a Parson. Looks like I got him nearly treed.
Senator Smith, you'll want it on a telephone.
Thank you. Excuse me.
Closed. All right.
Wheel and deal, madam.
Still a possible flush. Pair of 7s. Jack to me.
Is that Brigg? What's the matter?
He's dead.
Brigg?
In his office. Cut his throat.
Are you two at it again? We're on the last hand.
Sorry, everyone. We just got word Brigg Anderson's dead.
What?
Oh,
Stan, will you get Harley and meet Leif and me at the Anderson home? I know he'd like to be there.
Of course.
how did it happen?
Looks like he killed himself.
No, I don't know. He was good and kind and honest. I don't know what it was they were trying to use against him. But whatever it was, they can't use it anymore. So it doesn't matter, does it?
Did Brigg have any idea about who might be behind all this?
No. No. Excuse me. Please excuse me.
I know Van Ackerman's behind it. What I don't know, is he alone in it? If he is alone in it, it becomes a Senate matter for the Senate to handle in its own way.
And if Van Ackerman isn't alone? Is that what they think of me on the Hill? Is that what you think of me, Bobby?
No, I don't, but Harley here might like a straighter answer than that.
As God is my witness, Harley, I know nothing. Now, what about Leffingwell?
There'll still be a suspicion in some quarters that you're involved in Brigg's death. You better withdraw Leffingwell.
The president is always suspect in some quarters because people are suspicious of power. You can't be guided by that. I'm sorry about Brigg Anderson. Don't misunderstand. I wish he were alive and happy. But he's dead. Morning's coming, and I still need a Secretary of State. The situation hasn't changed. Except now you could bring Leffingwell to the floor for a vote. You've got the votes committed, Bobby. Use them. Well, Harley, what are you looking so shocked about? You think in my place you'd feel any differently about this than I do?
I don't know, Mr. President. But last night I saw Brigg Anderson. I saw a man in terrible pain. I wonder if Leffingwell or any one man is worth all of this.
Wondering doesn't run a government. Good night, Harley.
Good night, Mr. President.
Good night, Mr. President.
Bobby.
Yes, sir?
I do want to confirm a suspicion to you. Maybe it'll help you understand why I want Leffingwell so badly.
I understand.
Going fast. There's nothing left inside here that's working anymore. Leffingwell can take a firm grip on everything I built up in foreign policy. Not let it all fall to pieces. Harley can't. You know he can't.
No, I don't know that. Why don't you bring him in and give him some help?
I haven't any time to run a school for presidents. I haven't any time for anything.
I guess I've been wrong in many, many things. I suppose history will have much good to say of me. I can't dwell on that. I've done my best. You're one of the great presidents, Russ. Well, if you think so, that's almost as good as history. Bye, Bobby. Good night, Mr. President. Thank you. Anything there?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Don't you ever go to bed, Steve?
Sleep's a waste precious time for old folks.
I have a feeling you've been waiting for me.
Mr. Majority Leader, tomorrow I'm going to raise the dome off the Capitol building. That old dome won't likely ever sit right again when I get through speaking my piece. I know all about James Morton, Mr. Majority Leader.
How long have you known about James Morton?
Yeah, it's not important. The important thing is I know, but
I said, how long, Steve?
there's nothing more to say.
You forced Fletcher to call Brig Anderson.
I was trying to do the best for everybody.
I'll tell you what you were doing. You were amusing yourself, watching us all squirm, laughing while a dying president put up a fight for a man he believes in. In the Senate, you kept quiet while Brigham Anderson carried the load. You were playing for the right moment to rise up and turn on the mighty wrath of Sebe Cooley. All right, Sebe, you've got it. The biggest moment you'll ever have. Brig Anderson gave it to you with a dull razor blade.
Will you wait? I'll make you a deal, Mr. Majority Leader. Turn your votes loose, and I'll keep my mouth shut. Even if that man's confirmed, I'll keep my mouth shut.
You call that a deal? I call it extortion.
I meant it as a favor.
Thanks. I can do without your favors.
The subcommittee under the chairmanship of Senator Anderson has reported favorably to the full committee, and the full committee vote is as follows. 8 votes for recommendation, 5 votes opposed, 1 abstention. By this vote, the Committee on Foreign Relations recommends to the Senate that Robert A. Leffingwell be confirmed for Secretary of State. I return the floor to the Senator from Michigan.
Mr. President, I move the Senate now advise and consent to the nomination of Robert A. Leffingwell for Secretary of State.
The question is, will the Senate advise and consent to the nomination of Robert A. Leffingwell for Secretary of State? The senior senator from South Carolina has apprised me of his intention to speak on this motion. The chair now recognizes the senior senator from South Carolina.
Mr. President, there is some opinion harbored here that my opposition to Mr. Leffingwell has been a matter of vindictiveness, Mr. President. I'm afraid that's true to some degree, and for this, I humbly apologize to this chamber and to the man in the White House who, with good intentions for this nation, sent the nominee down to us. I don't expect this apology to wash away my sins, but I hope that it will in some way reestablish me as a center in the eyes of my colleagues rather than as the flannel-mouthed old curmudgeon. I seem to be becoming my waning years, and so much for that. Mr. President, I shall still oppose Mr. Leffingwell, but without vindictiveness. His voice is not the voice I want to hear speak for America. 'Tis to me an alien voice. Perhaps it's the new voice of my country. These old ears aren't tuned to these new sounds, I'd know. I don't understand much that Mr. Leffingwell says. I don't understand how principles of dignity can become outworn, or how this nation can be represented without pride. I don't understand these things. Because I am what I am, feel as I feel, I'm going to vote against confirmation. Yet, I ask no man to follow me in this.
Mr. President.
Recognize the senior senator from Michigan.
The senior senator from South Carolina has just eaten a rather large order of crow. Strangely enough, he makes the dish seem palatable. He makes us all want to sit at his table. He calls himself a curmudgeon. Well, I hope the day never comes when there is not at least one curmudgeon in this body to goad us in the right direction. I can't agree with him about Mr. Leffingwell. I don't interpret Mr. Leffingwell in the same way. I don't hear an alien voice. To me, it sounds realistic. And more than that, I have great respect for the judgment of our chief executive. I'll vote for the nominee. But there are tragic circumstances surrounding this nomination which takes it out of the usual business and sets it deeply into the conscience of each senator. For this reason, I now wish to release all pledges made to me.
Mr. President, will the senator yield?
No, I will not. All pledges made to me are free to vote as they will.
What kind of a double cross is this?
The senator from Michigan has the floor.
Mr. President, I ask for a quorum.
Mr. President, I protest.
A quorum call precludes any speeches from the floor until the call is finished. Mr. Clerk?
Mr. Abbott?
Present.
Mrs. Adams?
Present.
Mr. Andrews?
Here.
Mr.
Well,
Bender
well,
of California?
I'll beat you anyway.
Mr. Bender
That's,
of North Dakota?
is a question.
Mr. Caulfield?
Here.
It is impossible to predict the outcome because there was no time to poll the individual members of the Senate, who will now decide, free of political commitments, guided only by their own conviction, how to vote on the question of Leffingwell's confirmation. Senator Anderson's mysterious suicide will
Wells, Simpson, Lansing.
Mr. Randall?
Marlowe abstained in the committee vote, but he'll vote with Steve.
Strickland?
Strike him off.
Goodman, strike him off.
Goodman.
Mr. Toland? Present. Mr. Topper?
Here.
Mr. Van Ackerman?
Here and waiting.
Mr. Young?
Present.
Mr. Zeffenbach?
Here. Call the absentees.
Mr. Courtney? Mr. Fickett? Mr. Fields? Mr. Granville? Mr. Larkins?
Thank you.
Mr. Matson?
Strickland. 7
Mr.
minority votes
Newcomb.
for Leffingwell.
42 majority,
Mr.
7
Pinkley.
minority. 49.
Mr.
49.
Valez?
Well, we still get a chance to win.
Prior to the quorum call, the Foreign Relations Committee reported favorably on the nomination of Robert A. Leffingwell for Secretary of State. The senior senator from Michigan has moved the Senate advise and consent to that nomination.
Mr. President.
I did not relinquish the floor when I asked for a quorum, Mr. President.
Senior senator from Michigan still has the floor.
Mr. President, the senator can't hold the floor in silence.
Mr. President, with the chair's permission, I shall be very brief.
The chair gladly gives any senator permission to be brief.
I ask for the yeas and nays.
Yeas and nays have been requested. Is there a sufficient number?
I demand recognition, Mr. President.
Both sides of the aisle are loudly demanding an immediate vote on the question whether or not to consent to the President's nomination of Leffingwell as Secretary of State. Plainly, both parties are repudiating Van Ackerman's tactics. He is still putting up a fight to regain the floor before the question is put to a vote. But
this is conspiracy! The chair is conspiring to stop debate. The chair is violating the rules of the Senate. I will not be bullied this way.
Sufficient show of hands. Yeas and nays have been ordered. Clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Abbott?
Yes?
Mrs. Adams?
What the hell are you and Harley trying to pull?
Mr. Andrews?
You can't gag me. I'll get an investigation.
Yes. I don't think
Mr.
you'd want that.
Ardell?
We're onto it, Fred.
Mr. Arthurs?
What are you talking about? Onto what?
Mr.
We
Ashley?
tolerate about anything here. Prejudice,
Mr. August?
fanaticism, demagoguery, anything. That's what the Senate's for,
Mr.
to tolerate freedom.
Bellingham?
Yes?
But you've dishonored us.
Mr. Bender of California?
What I did was for the
Mr. Bender
good of the country.
North Dakota?
Fortunately, our country always manages
Mr.
to
Bender
survive
of
patriots like
Pennsylvania?
you. We could introduce a resolution to censor and expel you.
Bentley?
But we don't want Brig Anderson's tired old sin made public,
Mrs. Bishop?
whatever it was.
Yes.
So we let you stay,
Mr.
if you
Broadhead?
want to. If you want to.
Mr. Bronson?
No.
Mr. Caulfield?
Yes?
Mr. Satinas? Mr. Chambers?
Yes.
Mr. Chatsworth?
Yes.
Mr. Cook?
Yes.
Mr. Cooley?
No.
Mr. Cunningham?
No.
Mr. Curry?
Yes?
Mr. Dahl?
No.
Mr. Daniels?
Yes.
Maybe we should have waited for his
Mr.
vote.
Dansworth?
Now we only have a margin of 2. Slipped up there, didn't we?
Mr. Danta?
Yes.
so far, the vote is running about even, and it is still impossible to predict the final outcome.
No.
Mr. Eves?
Somebody better wake up McCaffrey. Yes. We need his vote.
Mr. Evans?
McCaffrey's asleep again.
Mr. Everett?
Wake up McCaffrey. We need his vote.
Mr. Farmer?
No.
Mr. Foley?
Yes.
Mr. Frank?
Opposed, sir.
Mr.
I'm opposed.
Gadsden?
No, Senator, not yet.
Mr.
And I believe that
Hanson?
you're not opposed.
Mr. Jolly?
No.
During the last few minutes, Leffingwell's chances have improved, and it seems more than likely he will be confirmed by a small margin of maybe 1 or 2 votes. Of course, in case of a tie, we can definitely count on the vice president to use his decisive vote in favor of the nominee. Harley's always gone along with the majority leader's policies.
Call Dr. Slater. Hurry.
Mr. Smith of Oregon?
Yes.
Mr. Smith of Rhode Island? Mr. Smith of Rhode Island?
No.
What the? Smythe?
That ties it.
Haven't had so much fun since the cayenne pepper hit the fan.
Mr. Snyder?
Yes.
Mr. Sorensen?
Yes.
Mr. Strickland?
No.
Mr. Sundberg?
No.
Mr. Swanson?
Yes. We're coming in
Mr.
deadlock.
Sweet?
You'll have to make it good.
No. Okay.
Mr. Tate?
Yes.
Mr. Teller?
No.
Mr. Temple?
No.
Mr. Thacker?
Yes.
Mr. Thompson?
No.
Mr. Timothy?
Yes.
Third painting by Colonel Trumbull is the surrender of Lord Cornwallis at Yorktown, Virginia. Major O'Hara in the red coat in the foreground delivered his sword for him. Washington wouldn't accept the sword from anyone beneath his rank.
Mr. Toland?
Yes.
Mr. Tooley?
No.
Yes.
Mr. Topper?
Yes.
Mr. Tracy of New Jersey?
No.
Mr. Tracy of Washington?
No.
Mr. Vandergrift?
Yes.
Mr. Vassar?
No.
Mr. Welch?
Yes.
Mr. Wells? Yes. Mr. Whitman?
No.
Mr. Williams? No. Mr. Wilson?
Yes.
Mr. Woodworth?
No.
Mr. Yost?
Yes.
Mr. Young?
No.
Mr. Zeffenbach?
Yes.
The vote is tied at 47 to 47. The Vice President will not exercise his constitutional privilege to break this tie with an affirmative vote. Therefore, the motion to advise and consent to the nomination of Robert A. Leffingwell for Secretary of State stands defeated.
Mind your own damn business. Some things happen. Sit down.
It has fallen to me to make a sad announcement. The President died a few minutes ago. Will the senior senator from South Carolina, as President pro tempore of the Senate, please assume the chair?
Good luck, son.
Thank you. About the vote? Bob, I'm sorry. I'd prefer to name my own Secretary of State.
All right, Harley. Mr. President, I'll see what I can do for him.
Thank you.
Mr. President.
Recognize the senior senator from Michigan.
Senators, a great leader is dead. A bitter loss for our country, a bitter personal loss for all of us here. I move we adjourn out of respect until further notice.
So ordered.